Yeah, and welcome to another video. I'm Brett, and this is Oz Noy from New York.
New York.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Oz is absolutely terrifying on guitar, and he's like one of those guys where I'm like, oh my God, like, is there something that you do that I can even do? So we've decided to have him help us with rhythm. And so you've got some awesome ideas on how to help people with their rhythm and their timing.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave all of Oz's links down below so you can check out all of his stuff. We'll have a link to his site. Do you have a YouTube channel?
A what?
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, but it hasn't been active in years.
Come on,
I
dude.
know. I'm working on it.
It's 2022.
I know.
Anyways, I'll leave his website down below to check it out. And then if you want to support the cause and have videos like this coming to you all the time, by all means, check out brettpapa.com down below. It funds this whole experience. All right, so what do you got for us, man?
From years of teaching, I noticed that the thing that guitar players are lacking the most is rhythm.
Yeah.
Now, there's like 3 types of rhythm.
Okay.
When you're talking about rhythm, there's one thing is to have a good pocket, meaning playing really well with a metronome or with a band.
Okay.
So, the easy way out of this is to have your metronome be your best friend and just practice everything with a metronome.
Okay.
That will make your internal time good. And then the more comfortable you feel with a metronome, the better your time will be, and the easier it will be for you to play with people that have good time. Because if you don't play in time, nothing will sound good.
Right.
Nothing will sound good. It doesn't matter how great you play. So that's the first thing.
Okay. Is there kind of like steps as far as a metronome goes? Because I know it can be kind of intimidating for people to play with a metronome. Is there stuff you like to do first? Like if somebody's like, this is their first adventure with a metronome, like what would you suggest to start with?
The first thing to understand about a metronome is it kind of sounds terrifying and not terrifying at the same time. You just need, if there's a click, you just need to try to play in the middle of that beat, that click as much as possible.
Okay.
I know it sounds a little vague now, but because you can play behind it and on top of it, and then you either rushing or slowing. So that's the one thing that you need to care about, that every note you play will be on that click.
Okay.
It's kind of simple. The thing is, again, it develops your internal time. So I would say if you have a metronome on, then start by just playing quarter notes right on the click. Like, put it for a second, I'll show. Okay. So I'll just take a note. So I'll play quarter notes. That's just to get comfortable. And then when you get more comfortable, then you play maybe 8 notes. You split the beat into 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then you do like triplets maybe. Okay. So you divide the beat to 3. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then if you want to get fancier, you divide it to 4, so you get 16. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the main thing is to start. Actually, I wouldn't say start slow, because playing in time slow with a metronome is much harder.
It's way harder.
Yeah, so you want to start like if you start in 100 or 90 or something, or even 80 with a metronome, the first thing is just try to play the notes with the click, with the metronome, and then start dividing them, and it will kind of change your whole life once you get comfortable with it.
It does. And if you don't have a metronome, and if you have a phone, there's so many different apps.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I find quarter notes are a little bit more intimidating for people. Sometimes 8th notes, like what you're doing when you set it on an 8th note, sometimes that's easier for people to
because it kind of gives you a little more. But so that's the first thing about rhythm.
Okay.
Second thing about rhythm is rhythm guitar. So, if you really think about it, all the guys that we really love that are on all the big records and all this stuff, the guys that work the most are guys that play really, really good rhythm guitar. Okay. And that kind of falls in the back seat of, guitar playing, because it's not maybe as exciting. Yeah. But I would say listen to records, listen to guitar parts, because rhythm guitar, if you want to work as a guitar player, if you're a good rhythm guitar player, you'll work for the rest of your life. If you're a good soloist and not a good rhythm guitar player, you're not going to work much, So it's important to also understand that guitar is a very rhythmical instrument, and playing like Like James Brown, for half an hour straight, the same thing is good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. It's really good for you. So, you know, playing rhythm guitar, playing the same thing with a good pocket for half an hour, that's like James Brown stuff, you know? That's good.
Is there obviously James Brown, is there bands that you can think of specifically that are really good to help you get in the pocket?
Yeah, anything James Brown, you listen to, you know, a lot of it is funk music, but anything James Brown, you listen to the guitar parts, they're really good. Earth, Wind and Fire got great stuff. Prince.
Is it more little pieces of chords, like almost single note kind of stuff?
Some of it is single notes, some of it is full rhythms, but it could be anything that's like I don't know, like even a
Wait, let me give you a beat.
Yeah.
Is that tempo good?
Yeah, that's good.
And kind of show,
So,
give him something simple.
Like stuff like that, or the Sex Machine thing. Like that kind of stuff. If you can do that for a minute or two, you know, when you play with those bands, with Prince or like James Brown, all those guys, you play those same parts for a really long time, and that's what it is. It's about, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because getting everybody to also play with that pocket is a lot harder than people think. Even though the parts are pretty simple, oftentimes it's like to get everybody where you're feeling that in between space too.
And consistency is the key, like because if you have it for let's say 10 bars. And then it's not consistent anymore. The groove drops, everything drops. So that's, exactly. So so you have to really be able to do that. And that's why I'm saying like practicing with a metronome, when you get used to that internal time, then it really makes a difference, because then you're not terrified anymore about, oh, am I in time or I'm not? It just becomes internal.
So step one could be something as simple as like practice your scales, you know, in the different forms of time, whether it's quarter note, eighth note. That's step one.
Absolutely.
Step two might be chord fragments with a little bit of single note kind of stuff.
Sure.
And then what about, how about just normal rhythm playing? Like what would you do as far as like if you're going to play a typical song? Like
anything that is a pattern.
Okay.
As long as you keep the pattern, like, I don't know, like.
Right.
If you can do that for 5 minutes really good on a metronome, you'll be able to work.
So like a strum pattern.
Yeah, anything that's like when I'm listening to a strum pattern, when I did this, like I heard tum pum pa 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 pum. So as long as that pattern's in your head and you can nail it on a metronome with really good pocket, like time, then that's what I'm talking about. Okay,
so that's step two.
Yeah.
What about step three? You were saying.
Okay, so the third thing, which is what I'm gonna kind of show you more of, is that's the thing that I think guitar players are liking the most, is rhythm in your playing, in your phrasing.
Right.
And actually, believe it or not, what kind of creates the sound of your phrasing is rhythm.
Okay.
So let me just show you what I'm talking about. Basically, I found that somebody, for example, like B.B. King, actually, I know he's not aware of it, but his phrasing is very rhythmical.
Oh, for sure.
And that thing is kind of creates like his sound, to my opinion. You know, it like influenced me a lot. So put that groove on, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So basically, you know, I'll do a kind of a bad imitation of B.B. King now. Very white, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But my point is just to show the so, you know, it's basically, so if this was the groove. So what he would probably do would be something like, I'm so sorry. That would do. So there wasn't that much to it, but because the rhythm thing was so strong in the phrasing, it's kind of like the way he plays, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's what I grabbed from his playing. I can talk about that from same kind of idea talking about like Albert King.
Oh yeah.
Because for me, like he takes like two notes and he kind of squeezed them to death. But a part of the whole thing is also the rhythm thing that he does, whether he's aware of it or not. And to me, that's something that if you're kind of aware of that, then you can apply it to your playing in really any style. It doesn't really matter what you play. So if you I'll show you. So,
okay.
So I'll take just like 3 notes. So again, that was I'm not trying to imitate him. I'm just trying to show kind of the connection between even those blues guys and rhythm. Because to me, that stuff is very rhythmical.
You know, I think a lot of it too is there's, BB, for example, is a singer too. So you're used to putting spaces where you would breathe.
Exactly. And also the whole thing about rhythm in your playing is when you're playing rhythmical, people listen. It's almost like somebody saying, hey, listen, blah, blah, blah. And then he says like, oh, look at,
Sure. It's more like a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So that's stuff to me that it's really important in phrasing. That's kind of what really creates phrasing. So in terms of how to practice it, you can take 4 notes and put a metronome on and just do what I did. I just took basically, maybe I cheated a little bit, but you can just take, A minor pentatonic. You can just take the first 4 notes, like not the first, so those 4 notes, and just play with them rhythmically. You'll be surprised how much your playing can suddenly sound like you're saying something.
Would you say to like try to hear a rhythm in your head and then try to duplicate it, or like?
I don't know what goes on in my head exactly, but I would think yes.
Yeah.
I would think that that's probably a part of it. So, because there's a lot of stuff. You listen to a lot of music, so there's a lot of things going on where you're playing. But I would think that the first thing would be to think rhythmically.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if you I'll show you. So if you put this click, that's boring. Even that's boring. But if you start thinking about 1, 2, 3,
Right.
See what I mean? Like really kind of, you can squeeze a lot out of 4 notes. And the way I think about it, I feel is more like I think rhythmically. And that's how I kind of able to kind of squeeze those notes.
It's interesting that you say that, because I find sometimes when I'm struggling note choice wise, and I'm just burnt and I can't think of anything, I'll default to okay, I'm just going to try to rhythmically play the rhythm in my head. And then it's funny because the notes actually usually come out better anyways.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I found that if you're in a rut, like you go, I play the same thing all the, thinking about rhythms kind of breaks that.
Absolutely.
Away,
well, even just all the different examples you just did right there. I mean, that's a ton of different stuff with the same 4 notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot with it. It's, obviously I'm playing, I wanted to prove a point, so I asked you to put just quarter notes behind it. But if there's an actual specific grooves, then you can react to the groove that you're playing, whether it's a shuffle or a straight, pocket, like a backbeat. But all that stuff it all comes from the same place where, if once you start being aware that there is rhythm, with guitar players, you want to shred first, you know.
Sure.
If the first thing you do, you learn chords, and then as soon as you learn how to shred, it's like, oh,
off to the races.
Yeah. So nobody thinks about rhythm till somebody go like, hey, you know, there's rhythm and also in
there's a drummer back there.
Yeah, the drummer and the bass player, they do that all the time, all day long. So I don't know. I think that's kind of an important aspect of guitar playing that is kind of not talked about enough.
Sure.
And I think it's really important.
You were telling me also when we were talking before we started playing about you'll go and you'll pick notes to memorize on your fretboard to the metronome.
Yeah, but that's actually a little more advanced kind of idea, but I think it also works really well. You know, to me, a part of the idea of being free on the guitar is be able to play all over the neck.
Okay.
Like you kind of want to open the neck kind of. You know, most of the stuff that we thought as, especially in the beginning, it's like it's a vertical.
Sure.
It's like shapes like this.
Right.
And playing horizontal to me is where it's at because then your neck is really open up and you can kind of really go all over.
Sure.
So one exercise I like to do is it's good to just open the neck and also to familiarize with where the notes are. Okay. So I would start with taking one note. Let's do everything on C because it's easy. But I would take C in all octaves, everywhere I know it. So that's pretty much everywhere it is on the neck, all right? Okay. So now if you put a metronome, again, it could be with a groove too, but if I put a metronome, the first thing you want to do is, once you know where the notes are, just think about rhythms, you know? And it gets weird, you know, if you get comfortable.
Yeah.
So that's
crazy.
It's hard to do, but I think it really helps.
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then the next step after that is, once you feel comfortable with that, add a fifth.
Wow.
So now it's going to be C and G. Okay. So then it starts to sound more like music. So first of all, find where it is. So, you know, I'm playing all the options here. Okay. And now you can start moving even more comfortably, you know?
There you go. Oh my God. Can you do that with like all the different intervals? Like, is that easy for you to like?
I can, you know.
How much did you practice that? Did you practice that a lot?
No, it's because I practice more like triads or arpeggios.
Sure.
So if you do that and you know where everything is, because I know where everything is, when I think about rhythm, it just happens automatically, you know? The idea is you want to really feel comfortable with rhythms, you know what I mean? Because we kind of used to just either playing 8 notes or 16ths. It's not, you know, so once you start breaking it up, then all that stuff starts to feel more natural. So let's say if I would have added a third now, then it will be a major third. It's just a triad of C major. Right. So again, you have to know it all over the neck. So if I'll do it from the beginning to the end of the guitar. So I'll start on E. No, hold on before. So like I know where all those notes are, you know? So now I covered all the triad on the guitar. Sure. So once I have that, if you put a metronome, I can probably, you know, start.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
That's crazy. Starts to sound like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Have you ever seen that movie?
But it's actually, but you know, it's a great exercise because if you get into that, then once you put the third in there, then you also have, you have a triad. So it starts to sound more like music because, because you have a chord, you know what I mean? So you can flatten the third, you can flatten the fifth, you can start doing stuff that sounds like not only major,
Yeah.
minor, diminished, all stuff.
Well, even just how you're breaking it up rhythmically, though, because arpeggios can be that same thing. People practice them in the exact same.
Also, arpeggios is the hardest thing to do on guitar in general. Like triads or arpeggios to me are the hardest thing to play. So when you kind of break it off and you don't play this, that thing is really hard to play on guitar.
It
to
totally
me,
is,
it's hard for me to do it.
Yeah.
So when you kind of break it and you open the neck like that, I think it benefits you a lot more in a way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so step one note, work on different rhythms.
Yeah.
Quarter, eighth, triplets, 16th.
Yep.
2 is maybe a couple of notes with a little rhythm in there.
Yeah, rhythm guitar.
3 would be do your phrasing that way, and your lead phrasing really work on the different
rhythm. Like choose a couple of notes and kind of suck the juice out of them, think rhythmically.
And then this is just open the note to the metronome just opens up.
Yeah, like it's basically knowing the where the notes are on the guitar in all octaves.
Okay, so give us 3 examples of rhythmic guitar players that you really like. Step 1 though, like that people could listen to, like, oh wow, like give them new ideas or things that they may not have thought of that are palatable to everybody. And
well, Nile Rodgers, Chic.
Okay,
that's really like that's like the most classic thing.
Okay. Yep.
Any Prince thing, really.
Prince I don't think people realize how good he is on guitar.
He's the greatest.
He's so good.
The funkiest of all time.
And then the showmanship too. It's like, really? Like, and then you can do splits and all that. Whatever, dude.
So Prince, anything James Brown, when you listen to the 2 guitar, there's usually 2 guitar players, but any of those,
Okay.
Like anything on those records, it's all part. I think like there's a lot of great rhythm parts on like Earth, Wind and Fire records. A lot of great rhythm parts on the old Michael Jackson records. The best.
Thriller has got some of the most terrifying rhythm guitar playing ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So any of that stuff works. I'm sure I'm missing a lot.
Is that Paul Jackson Jr. that's on the Thriller show? Is that who that is?
I don't think so. I think maybe he's on some of it, but not on all of it.
God, it's so good. I remember I went to MI for like, I don't know, 3 months or something like that, one of their little pilot programs, and Michael Jackson's band came in.
Oh, really?
And it was just like...
Of course.
Oh, and like, because then everybody gave like a mini clinic too, but you don't realize until they all come together. It was just like, my God, these guys are good.
Yeah. I think David Williams was one guy that played on some of that stuff. And then who's the guy that sang Ghostbusters?
Oh, Parker Jr.
Ray Parker Jr. played on a bunch of that stuff.
Wow.
Even the first Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, there's a lot of great rhythm guitars.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Oh, it's awesome.
Okay, cool.
So stuff like that, you can find really cool, it's just guitar parts, but that's rhythm guitar,
Okay. Okay, what about you? You got records playing out live? What's your gig?
I got some tours. I just finished some tours. I got some more tours coming up with my band. And
on the website?
Everything's on my website, on social media.
Okay.
I have a YouTube page, but I just haven't been active on it.
What's the social media that you're on the most?
Either Instagram, Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll leave all that stuff linked down below. Make sure you check it out. His playing is terrifying. we had him go gentle on you today. But thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. I'll put all his link down below. And then all this again is brought to you by BrettPapa.com. We got tons of guitar instructional stuff down there. It's not just me. There's all sorts of great players down there too. So make sure you check that out. Thank you so much for your continued support. We'll catch you next time.